If you're stressed, you die. If you adapt, you survive. If you're stressed, you die. If you adapt, you survive. I want to talk to you today about two penguins. They grew up on the Arctic, not far from the ocean, in a beautiful little village. Dave and Rob. Dave is a big, strong penguin, admired by everybody and fancied by quite a few. The contrast between his black and the white of his coat was remarkable. And as he went out to sea, he caught all of the fish and provided for the whole village. Now, Rob, by contrast, was a small penguin. He was more of a greyish colour. He'd waddle through town. He'd catch the odd fish, and people smiled at him as he went by. Now, the winter came. The temperature plummeted. The snow started to fall, and Dave said, "I will do as I've always done. I am the fittest penguin. I will fish for you all." Rob suggested that they do something a little bit different. He said, "Well, why don't we huddle together and share our warmth through the winter?" Dave did as he'd always done. Dave died. Rob adapted. Rob survived. Stress is a topic that affects us all. If you've ever felt or suffered from stress, if you just want to show me your hand. And if you know anybody who is suffering with stress, again, you show me your hand. And crucially, if you'd like to learn how to get rid of it and sort it for good, would you raise your hand? So let's start off by thinking about stress. What is stress? I want you to take a minute and just think, what is the definition of stress? Now, you might have found that difficult, or you might have come up with something in your mind. I'm sure if you shared that with the person sitting next to you, your definitions would be very different. And you might say, well, it's not my place to define stress. That's for my employer or for my doctor. And I'm sure if you ask them the same question, the same thing will happen. They'll struggle to define it. You see, how can you do anything about that which you cannot define? I've got an experiment, and I want you to try really hard. No one has ever completed this, so I want you to try really hard for me. I want you to think of a colour that you have never seen before. Think of a colour that you've never seen before. It's impossible. How can you see the unseen? How can you do something about that which you do not know? So if we continue to know that stress is so bad for us, we can't define it, what can we do? Stress is the precursor to every chronic disease in the Western world. The precursor. It is like the kindling on the fire of cancer. It is like the gasoline on the fire of heart disease. And if there is one thing that will reduce your immune system more than anything, stress is it. So if we can't define it, and it is so chaotic to the human being, what can we do? Well, the beautiful thing is we can actually identify stressors, those things which cause the human body to become sick. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of Darwin's theory. Darwin's theory, the survival of the fittest. Remember Dave, the fittest penguin? Darwin's theory doesn't state that the fittest person survives. Darwin's theory actually states that the organism or community that can best adapt to its environment is the one that survives. The organism or the community that can best adapt, that word again, to its environment best survives. So I want us to take this word stress and I want us to kick it into touch and I want us to think of a new word, adaptability. How can we adapt? That is the key to surviving. So we can't identify stress, but we can identify stressors, those things which cause the human body to become sick. The beautiful thing is, and the secret that I want to let you in on today, is that there are only 3 things that you need to focus on. Only 3 things. It's a very easy number to remember, and there's no prizes for guessing what my favourite number is. 3. And the beautiful thing is, this 3 gets even easier because the 3 things that I want you to consider all begin with the same letter, which is coincidentally my favourite letter in the alphabet. In case you've forgotten, my name is Tom. It begins with a T. The 3 T's. You will never forget the 3 T's. There are only 3 things you need to remember from today, and that is the 3 T's. The 3 T's stand for thoughts, traumas, and toxins. The only 3 things that can cause a human being to become sick are thoughts, traumas, and toxins. Thoughts are emotions. Our emotions are on a pinwheel. If you want to think of this big circular pinwheel, and all around this pinwheel you've got lots of emotions: love, happiness, laughter, gratitude, anxiety. And on the opposite side of each emotion, there is an equal and opposite emotion. This simply means that the two cannot coexist at the same time. They cannot coexist at the same time. The biggest emotion that affects most people is anxiety, fear of the unknown. Anxiety is the precursor stress to most of the other stresses that we feel. Draw a line across that circle. Its equal and opposite is gratitude, the art of being thankful. I'd like you to close your eyes for a minute and just take a minute to think about 3 things that you are truly grateful for. See it, smell it, hear it. 3 things you're truly grateful for. Gratitude is a muscle that you can develop and you can build. If you spend time each day to think about things you are grateful for, you are not going to get rid of anxiety. In my work with thousands of patients over the years, and the pleasure and fortune of working with the police service, the fire service, and the armed services, one thing I know is that if I walked into that room and said to them, just reduce your stress, I don't think it's going to work. But if you can build up an adaptability, if you can spend, here's that number again, 3 times a day thinking about 3 things you're grateful for, you will build your muscle of gratitude so that when anxiety comes into your life, you can adapt. Thoughts. Traumas, those physical stresses on the human body, bumps, scrapes, falls, fender benders. There's one trauma that affects the human body more than any, and you're all doing it right now. Sitting. They say sitting is the new smoking. Sitting has the ability to really damage the health of the human body. As you sit behind the back of your knees and in your lower back, you're convoluting and compressing blood vessels and lymph vessels. You're not perfusing the body, you're not removing toxins. You're compressing your spinal cord. The messages from your brain to your body are slowing down, and your body is becoming sick. There's a bit of research to say that if you stand up and sit back down every 20 minutes, it has the potential to put 3 quality years back on your life. So would everybody please stand up for me? And sit back down because I'm under time. And say, thank you very much, Tom, for the 3 quality years you just put on my life. And that's that number again, 3 times an hour, every 20 minutes. 3 times an hour, you stand up and sit down. You do not need to go for a walk. You just need to stand up and sit back down. Because inevitably, you are going to have to sit. But if you stand and sit back down every 20 minutes, you become more adaptable to the sitting. Trauma. And then toxins, those things that we ingest or we're exposed to that make us sick. The easiest place to start is with our nutrition. And again, my favorite number, 3. There are only 3 things you need to consider to remove from your diet or reduce. I want us to consider that treats are meant to be treats. Do you remember that once a week you used to have a treat? I used to have a Caramac bar once a week watching Stingray on the TV. Now most people have a couple of bars of chocolate a day. So if a treat is a treat and you have the majority of your food good, it means that when you inevitably have something bad, you can adapt. The 3 things you need to remove from your diet all have the same color. So you'll never forget these either. They're all white. Wheat, dairy, and sugar. The great British breakfast. A bowl of cereal, wheat, dairy, and sugar. Now, if you can limit, reduce, or even eliminate those from your diet, inevitably, when you have to have it, in the lunch break, I ate a sandwich, I never eat bread. It's wheat, but my body can now adapt to it because it's a rare thing for me to have. Stressors. 3 things: thoughts, traumas, toxins. Eliminate them or reduce them. Make your body more adaptable so that next time you are exposed to thoughts, traumas, and toxins, which will happen in your life, you can adapt. Let's be a little bit more like Rob. Let's adapt and survive. And I want to leave you with this. The Buddhist monks, they spend the first half of their day putting their armor on. So then the second half of the day, they can go out in service and adapt to the stresses that come at them. You are going to come across stress every day, physical, chemical, or emotional. But if you selfishly start your day focusing on what you can do positively, physically, chemically, and emotional, thoughts, traumas, and toxins, you will adapt, and you will survive. The 3 T's. The stressed die. If you adapt, you survive. Thank you. Thank you.